Hello, my name is Brandy Mackey, and I would like to welcome you to my very first video blog. I would like to start this blog off by saying I have read the Daniel 2020 textbook in its entirety, and what it covers are the 6 ethical or moral principles covered in the ACA 2014 Code of Ethics. But for the purpose of this video blog, I'm just going to cover 2 of them, one that is in harmony with my beliefs and one that is in disharmony. The first one is the ACA principle that is in harmony with my own personal values is beneficence, which is in direct alignment with the ACA Code of Ethics Article 4A, which states counselors are to avoid harming their clients. I grew up with the idea of do not harm, but I never thought of it in the idea of promoting the good of a person until I read the Daniel textbook. I was raised in church and with the concept of loving others as God loved us. Love as an action is an amazing concept, and I love how it can be incorporated into the counselor-client relationship. While this was a concept I was familiar with prior to this course, it was not something that I had in my forethought of day-to-day operations. It has been challenging thinking of this first and foremost of a day-to-day operation. It has been challenging thinking of this first and foremost when conducting myself because it has changed how I operate. Whereas before, I would attempt to reach a goal of whatever it was I was attempting to accomplish by any means. I now have to consider the other parties involved, ensuring that I won't do any harm to them. Now looking at the principle that is in disharmony or conflict is the ethical principle that I would struggle with the most, that would be a conflict for me, and that is autonomy. Trusting people to make their own decisions is not a day-to-day conflict for me, but in the client-counselor relationship, I would struggle. I am going into addiction counseling, and the conflict would be that I do not think that they are able to make the best decisions for themselves, or they would not be in counseling with me. I know that God allows us all to make our own decisions, whether good or bad, and I have to learn to trust my clients to do the same. Another key part of counseling is meeting the client where they are at. Sometimes they may not be what I want them to be or do, or whatever I believe is best for them. However, the client may not be ready for that step yet, and I have to meet them where they are at and let them make their own decisions, which would be difficult for me. And since that would be difficult and a conflict, I need to look at ways and actions that I can take to make that better. Now that I have identified the conflict, what actions would I take to help me get past that? And I would probably want to use the Counselor Value-Based Conflict Model, or the CVCM, as outlined in the article by, Grunhaus, Tauzon, Gonzalez, and Wagner. I do hope I said those correctly. This value-based conflict model is a 5-step model used to resolve conflict. Using these steps, this is what I would determine and an action I would take, starting with step 1, which is realizing that this is just a personal conflict for me. Then moving to step 2, which is a self-examination of this conflict. I discovered that this would be a trust issue for me personally. Step 3, I would turn to the 2014 ACA Code of Ethics to seek guidance on this conflict, which would determine it would be that me imposing my values on a client. Moving to step 4, the best course of action would be to take a value-neutral stance when dealing with the conflict to avoid imposing my value system on the client. And then the final step is to select the options that best promote the welfare of the client and to use resources that will guide us in doing so, which would be most likely, our Code of Ethics and articles such as this to help us get past our conflicts. Thank you very much.